So, dear viewers, good morning. My name is Nazar Bubitsky, and welcome to the online UCAB Fireside Chat as we continue our series of English language online discussion events that are dedicated to Ukrainian agriculture, its place in the European and global economy, and also its resilience in times of war and prospects for the future. My name is Nazar Bubitsky. I'm director of Brussels office of Ukrainian Agribusiness Club, UCAB. And today, unfortunately, our event is dedicated to a very sad and tragic date. 2 days ago, Ukraine had to deal with the 4th anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion into our country. We are entering the 5th year of a full-blown war ravaging our country, the largest armed conflict on the European continent since the end of World War II. It continues to claim lives, destroy homes, factories, transport and energy grids, to say the very least, if not destroying also the future of our people. Maybe it's good to remind a few figures that already has been out. Just a few days ago, the Kyiv School of Economics released fresh figures of estimates of Ukraine's losses due to war since 2022 and counting. There are losses in industry, including construction and services. They are estimated at approximately $645 billion US. Agriculture comes as second in terms of damage. It's estimated at the level of almost $82 billion, which are higher than losses and damages for energy generation and distribution, 75 billion, and transport, 60 billion. So today we would like to look at the Ukrainian agriculture entering the 5th year of war. We will look at the general situation of the sector. We will assess the resilience and ability to transition from the survival mode perhaps towards stabilization. We will also look at the ability of the Ukrainian agricultural sector to access global markets. This is our traditional source of strength. These days, the ability of Ukrainian farmers to export is turning into a matter of life and death for the Ukrainian economy. And we will conclude by looking at the long-term picture, prospects of the sector reconstruction, how the reconstruction and recovery will go hand in hand with the integration of the Ukrainian economy into the internal market as Ukraine moves towards the EU membership. And today, as usual, we have a stellar panel of experts with us. We have Mr. Denis Bashlik, he's Deputy Minister of Economy, Environment and Agriculture of Ukraine. We also have Mr. Andriy Dekun, Chairman of Ukrainian Agricultural Council. We have Alexandra Vramenko, Chair of European Integration Committee of UCAB. We also expect Larissa Bilozir to join us shortly. She's a member of Parliament of Ukraine, member of Ukrainian delegation in Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, and a member of the EU-Ukraine Parliamentary Association Committee. And last but certainly not least, we have with us Dr. Alex Lisitsa, the founder and president of UCAB, and the author of the idea of UCAB online fireside chat for international community. I'm very pleased to pass the floor to Alex to welcome the guests and let's say to set the scene for our discussion today. Alex?
Thank you very much, Nazar. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you very much to all our foreign partners which are attending the event today. For the last 4 years, Ukraine probably will not survive. Thank you very much. We do believe strongly in our future, but we do also know who supported us over the last very difficult years for us. Thank you very much. Yeah, Nazar said it already. The war has changed everything. The war has destroyed the infrastructure. The war has destroyed the families, the people, the nation. But the war has not destroyed our belief in the future. And that's exactly the difference between us 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and now. Because we do still believe in our future. And as agriculture is a huge subsector of the national economy, which contributes a lot to the national stability, economic stability, but not only. We strongly believe that keep fighting in agriculture frontline is exactly so important like fighting on the front line with Russians. Our statement is that we do strongly believe in the future of Ukrainian agriculture together with our partners in the European Union. The whole agriculture community of Ukraine supports Ukrainian president, Ukrainian government on the way to the access to the European Union. And our idea is to be strong together with our partners as a member of the European Union, as a strong member of European Union from Ukrainian part. So I wish all of us today a fruitful discussion about the Ukrainian agriculture, but not only about the past. I would like also to discuss with you today about the future. And future of Ukrainian agriculture is a membership of Ukraine in the European Union. Thank you very much. And
Thank you very much, Alex. Now I would like to launch a discussion, and my
Nazar,
first
can you hear
question.
me?
Yes, yes, yes. Would you like to say a few more words, or you pass the floor to us? I see. Yes, Alex is en route. He's
No,
busy
no, thank
bee.
you.
No? Okay. So we will continue with our on event. And my first question comes to Deputy Minister Bashlik. Mr. Bashlik, the question is about, of course, where the macro picture, the helicopter view of the sector as it enters the fifth year of this ordeal. We have seen over the past 4 years that agriculture transformed into a workhorse of Ukraine's economy. And we also understand that these last 4 years, everyone, including the Ukrainian farmers, operated in a war survival mode. So, how do you feel? Will it? Do we manage somehow to transition from a war survival mode, adapting to unpredictability of war, or do you already see, at the level of the ministry, do you see a certain degree of stabilization in the sector, preparing perhaps for a longer term outlook? What's your view of the situation in the sector?
Yeah, thank you, Nazar. First of all, taking the opportunity, I want to express gratitude from the ministry to UCAB for organizing such an event. It's very important in our European integration process to have a direct communication with our international partners in order to show the real picture, because unfortunately, sometimes our, let's say so, enemy countries, they try to struggle us with our European colleagues. They try to monsterize Ukraine to show that the situation, unfortunately, is much worse than it is. So, if we take the helicopter view on the current situation in agriculture, I want to say that agriculture has always played a significant role in Ukraine's economy. However, since the beginning of full-scale war, its importance has increased substantially. The occupation of parts of eastern Ukraine, where a significant share of the country's metallurgical production was concentrating, along with continuous attacks on industrial and energy infrastructure, have severely affected the economy in general. So right now, unfortunately, but on the one hand, unfortunately, on the other hand, we have all that we have. Agriculture is the main pillar of Ukraine's economy. I really do like how you said that it is right now in war survival mode, but the main question is how long will it continue? Frankly speaking, it all depends on two main factors. First of all, it's what will be the conditions of peace agreement, because and when will it be? Because we do understand that agriculture sector of Ukraine is very flexible. We see that every year since 2022, we had different challenges, starting from the lack of fuel, lack of fertilizers, finishing the problems with logistics, the problems with unfavorable market prices, and so on. But still, it's pillar of Ukraine's economy. So right now we have to shift our policy from only surviving to some midterm and long-term perspective. We do understand that we have ambitious goal in European integration process. Like our Vice Prime Minister for European Integration, Taras Kachka, he jokes that we should work right now as if we will be the member of EU on 1st of January 2027. So here we should really concentrate our policy not only on emergency, but also on planning and preparing to European integration. Right now, we are trying to introduce all the policies that are necessary and that should be prepare Ukrainian agriculture sector to European integration and to be the part in the future of common agriculture policy. And actually, it depends on not only on state policy. It also depends on direct communication with our agriculture sector, because sometimes misperception and misunderstanding what is the European integration very influences on the process. And we as the government want that our governmental position in the negotiations with the European Commission should be based on the real opinion of agriculture sector. So here we have two challenges. First of all, it's war affected challenges. Second is European integration challenge that we have right now. But taking into account that the sector showed its flexibility and possibility to adapt to different situations, and frankly speaking, in some cases it's like a miracle. I think that Ukraine's agriculture, even after war, will be the main pillar of Ukraine's economy. But how long it will remain the main pillar of Ukraine's economy, it depends on peaceful agreement and on the possibilities to renew of the metallurgical sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Yes, this is very clear. But please stay with us. We will get back to you again when we touch briefly the dimension of European integration. I see that Larissa Biluzir, member of Ukrainian Parliament, is with us. I turn immediately to her. Welcome, Larissa, to our event. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, best greetings, everybody.
Yes, Larissa, we have just started discussing, the helicopter view of Ukrainian agriculture sector as it enters the 5th year of war. We had a very good brief but overview from Deputy Minister Bashlik. I would like to ask you, let's say beyond numbers, beyond official position. We know that you not only be active member of Ukrainian Committee for Agrarian Policy, you represent the interests of Ukrainian farmers, rural communities, but you also keep very close links with them, So beyond production numbers, what's your take on what's happening in, let's say, rural Ukraine? We are talking about that Ukrainian agricultural sector transitions. We hope it transitions from survival to stabilization mode. Do you agree with this? What is happening in rural Ukraine as we enter the 5th year of your take, please?
Thank you for the questions. Actually, I want to stress, dear colleagues, I'm not a member of Agrarian Committee. State Power and Local Self-Governance Committee.
My apologies.
But in the PACE, Parliament Assembly of Council of Europe, I'm rapporteur on the resolution on food security. So I am into agriculture, and of course in the Parliament we are working quite hard on the European agenda in agricultural issues. So first, I would like maybe to start with the situation in the parliament, right? Because when we speak about Ukrainian accession to European Union and the role of Verkhovna Rada in alignment of our legislation to the EU, we stick into implementing and meeting obligations set by Cluster 5, resources and agriculture, and it's a part of the accession negotiation network. And when we speak, we have to understand when we speak about negotiations, we have to understand that the meaning of this word is not literally negotiation anymore. They're about fulfilling the EU requirements and complying with the rules. Nobody is negotiates on this. But let me be honest, these reforms are not easy to implement politically. I would say, for example, yesterday we adopted the law on irrigation infrastructure. It laid for 4 years, and it's very important to restore state-owned melioration systems, and it's also EU alignment. And it was adopted only by 229 votes. It's just a minimum on the edge. So, and during the debate, we hear arguments that irrigation is less urgent than veterans' issues or military needs, and similar debates surrounded animal welfare legislation required for EU alignment. And of course, our veterans, soldiers are our priority. But Verkhovna Rada has to understand that reform cannot wait for perfect timing. And the difficult truth that EU standards are not only technical rules, they are determined to access their market. And it's true, but farmers do not like this legislation, Ukrainian farmers, because if they will not meet EU animal welfare, for example, or production standards, they will not be able to export, regardless of quotas we have and so on and so forth. So I understand that these standards are kind of also non-tariff barriers. I had my diploma on a PhD on tariffs and non-tariff barriers 20 years ago, and the situation is the same. We still have quotas, we still have tariff and non-tariff barriers, and of course, they have to, farmers and producers have to invest. And that is why a lot of farmers and producers are against laws that we adopt to align with EU rules, but this is a reality. So we have to remember that while we are at war, fighting for our sovereignty, at the same time we are aiming to join European Union, and where we would be required to delegate part of our sovereignty. So, but still, I do understand that our negotiations group and government must claim transitional mechanisms and provide the financial support for our farmers and producers. So I think it's, to work on agricultural issues and Verkhovna Rada, it's very hard, but we are trying to advance reforms under Cluster 5, and our priority is clear. In Verkhovna Rada, we are building legislation. It's also important institutional architecture, and that will be required from our government. So, on what we worked, I just want to stress what we did already. We established a functioning paying agency. We implemented an integrated administration and control system, and we have strengthened the state agrarian register, which is now mandatory to access the state help and support. So, without this system, participation in the common agricultural policy is impossible, but it's also a job of government for alignment to be real and operational, not only legislative, because without institutionalizing the legislation, we will not be ready. So I think it's important to stress that Ukraine-European choice has been paid for at a very high price. And we have to reinsert urgency of aligning to legislation of European or to European rules. And to be frank with you, we are losing the space in Verkhovna Rada. We cannot afford to lose this window of opportunity, and we have to be very determined, because actually these changes are irreversible, and we have to make it if we want to become a member of the European Union.
Thank you very much, Larissa. It's very encouraging to see that you respond to my question immediately by looking into the future. So you're not clearly, we see that at least the Ukrainian parliament is not in the survival mode, but they are trying to pave the way for long-term, let's say, recovery and prepare Ukraine perhaps for equally difficult challenge of adapting to the EU rules and standards as we are moving forward with accession. I understand, Larissa, that you don't have that much time with us. I hope you stay with us further, and I would like to pass back the baton to Deputy Minister Bashlik. Deputy Minister, if you are still with us.
Yes, I'm here, yeah.
Yes, a very quick question to you back from Larissa's take. It's very clear that the government is now in the driving seat in this very fast machine of Ukraine's EU accession. And we hope that the parliament does support, let's say, the initiatives of the government in terms of EU legislative alignment. But the key element is, of course, the key challenge would be implementation. Where does the government, where does the ministry see as biggest risks in implementing, let's say, our commitments in terms of EU rules alignment? As far as the agriculture sector is concerned, we of course talk about the financial support to farmers, the right institutional infrastructure, but also perhaps aligning with standards. Where you would see the biggest, let's say, risks with implementation, and how do you see the government addressing them? Your take, please.
As I already mentioned, that governmental position should be based on the real opinion of the sector, and if we will think about very pragmatic, it's not, sometimes it's really competitive to adopt some policies, to draft laws, to adopt some regulations. But let's be frank, the most competitive part starts in implementation of the regulations, laws, and standards, and especially within the process where real farmers, especially small and middle farmers, should spend their funds in order to adapt to the European standards, in order to be in line, to be aligned with animal welfare, in order to be in line within the policy on fertilizers and so on and so far. So the main challenge for us is to find this balance where we want to accelerate the European integration, but we don't want to make this acceleration as a shock therapy for our agriculture sector. We want to find the balance between very smooth entering and aligning within the European standards. And you already mentioned several times that right now agriculture sector in wartime survival mode. We don't want to add the additional shock therapy to already surviving sector within the process of European integration. And probably I want to take the opportunity to pass the floor a little bit to Andriy Dekun, because probably he knows the most what is the challenges and what is the most problematic part of European integration, which real farmers face right now.
Yeah, that was also my intention to transition later to Andriy. We have basically a practitioner with us, I would say, the patient that the doctors are now talking about. Andriy, how do you feel back there in the field? Your members of your association, how are they? Do they really squeeze between today's challenges, existential challenges of war, and tomorrow's challenges of joining the EU in terms of alignment? Andriy?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well. Go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I would like to say thank you to organizers for such interesting an event. Thank you to all our partners for the support for all these years. And honestly, the main question which we have today in front of Ukrainian farmers is how to survive. We understand about EU integration, but survival matter is more important at the moment, and I will explain you why. Actually, within our organization, which represents more than 1,300 farmers all across the country, we have members whose farms are under occupation temporarily. And those people are for years without any means for living. They are good entrepreneurs, but they are not at all bankable. And honestly, they are lost, unfortunately. We are losing these people as for the economy of our country. They choose Ukraine, they are on Ukrainian territory, but they have nothing to live. And they got any support from no one, from our partners, from our government. These people are lost. Another category of farmers, we have more than 1,200 kilometers of front lines, and there are a lot of farmers in this so-called 50-kilometer red zone. So people are used to live with drones. We have farmers who've been killed while working on the fields, for example, unfortunately, and a lot of fortification are being built on their land. And this is completely different. For these people, it's completely different story. And the other farmers, yes, we have big risk of our Black Sea ports, because we remember 22-23 when the ports were blocked. Unfortunately, we have big crisis in the dairy sector today, and we really hope that your commission will help us to survive this year, during this year at least. And of course, when it comes to for EU integration, our main question, we need finally to calculate how much every farmer need to pay. And of course, before the war, we were thinking that we have some time in front, 10 years, 20, nobody knows. Now we realize that there is political decision is taken, and very soon we will become a member of EU. And when we did a study by our expert group about pesticides, we have realized that our members will lose from 70 to 150 euro per crop, per hectare, depends on the crop, while when they refuse to use some pesticides which are not allowed to use in EU. And this is our big surprise. So we don't know how much should we pay. And we understand also that even so we will become a member of EU and the EU market will be open and we will fulfill all EU regulations and requirements, we will produce much more product than EU needs. Maximum 50% will be sold to EU, but what shall we do with the rest? With the rest, we should compete on other markets. And on other markets, we shall compete with Russians. Our main competitive in grain, for example, are Russians. And what they do, for example, with China now, they have 7-year contracts with China, which we don't have. And they are number one exporter of wheat today in the world. Russians are number one exporter of the wheat. Just imagine this. And that is also a big question for us because we don't understand how it will work in future. Therefore, we understand that we have any other choice. We will join EU. And I think that the right thing for both, for EU, for us, it would be nice to have normal, long transition period to understand and to find our places as Ukraine, because we are the first country who will join EU with such developed agricultural sector, to be honest. Nobody else did it before us. And together with the EU, we will become number one food exporter in the world. So we also understand this. So we understand all these challenges. We need time to calculate, to understand, and we ask for transition period. But again, I will come back to the beginning of my speech that at this moment, for all of us, the main thing is to survive. This is more important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrei. So survival mode, unfortunately, still predominates, but then we have to think about, let's say, other areas of resilience, sources of resilience for the sector. And naturally, with Andrei's, let's say, reference, we come to another topic we would like to discuss today, the export markets. And I would like to turn now to Alexander Avramenko, our expert on global markets. Alexandra manages the European Integration Committee at UCAB, and she's also leading an excellent analytical team in UCAB covering the global markets. Alexandra, my question to you is as follows. We know that UCAB produces excellent analytical tools called UCAB Outlooks, which gives a very good snapshots, fact-based snapshots of trade performance of Ukrainian agriculture sector in wartime conditions. Could you please update us with the current export framework, including, let's say, market access terms, logistical channels, and explain whether these factors stand in the way of Ukrainian farmers to survive and to plan for the future? Actually, they make their life a little bit easier. Over to you.
Thank you. Nazar, thank you for the question. First of all, I would like to say very big thank you to our participants who basically from their own perspective can give us an update on what Ukrainian agricultural sector is standing or facing right now. So we have survival mode on one side because we're still dealing with the war conditions. We have adaptation mode on the other side because we are facing with the European integration challenges that are coming to us. But at the same time, as Andriy has already mentioned, Ukrainian agricultural sector has quite big surplus in export, and we are the global player. And again, as was mentioned before, the export plays crucial role in our survival. And therefore, as was already mentioned, UCAB produces quite great analytics. The recent one was produced just last week. It's called Outlook 2026. It has quite big range of data. I'll give you the QR code after the short presentation and you will see. But first and foremost, return a bit to the question of what is the Ukrainian agricultural sector for the Ukrainian economy. So for the last year, Ukraine's export of agri-food products generated more than 50% of the total export of goods from Ukraine. The amount was $22.5 billion US dollars, which is, let's be honest, also one of the lowest figures since 2021. Ukrainian agricultural sector, from one side, stays resilient, but on the other side, faces the same way challenges of the war, reducing the production, has very limited capacity to stay resilient or even to have some possibility to recover. So therefore, let's be honest, its capacity right now is very limited. Still, we can see, even though the figure of export is quite low, and the general gross domestic production in 2024 was 26 billion US dollars, it means that Ukrainian agriculture generates and exports more than it actually produces inside or consumes inside. But at the same time, we see that the share of smaller producers, it's quite significant. It means that those who live in rural areas, those who are staying on the land and working on the land, they are actually the backbone of the Ukrainian economy. Regarding the export, the Ukrainian agricultural sector stays, again, one of the most important players on the world market because we are, as usual, over the years, even during the war, we are one of the biggest producers and suppliers of sunflower oil, of corn, wheat, soybean, poultry, you name it. The list is just in front of you. And as a result of 2025, we still see that the export of Ukrainian agri-food products in most goes to the Europe, including the European Union. Why this happens, you can ask. The logic is pretty simple. Because of the problems with the logistics that Ukrainian agricultural sector still faces since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. I need to remind you one more time that in 2021, 95% of Ukrainian agri-food products was exported through the Black Sea ports via sea. For us, there was the main channel of export, and it's still the same. Even since the reopening or launching of own export route in 2023, in 2024 and 2025, Ukrainian agri-food producers managed to export the surplus we had that we collected since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. However, right now, Black Sea ports are working with the bulk products, and still the packed, semi-packed, finished products, they're not going in full through the Odessa. Why? Because there's not enough containers, there is not enough container ships entering Odessa. So these products are still in most exported via solidarity lanes, which makes the export of packed products less competitive on the third markets, which creates, this problematic situation in which Ukrainian economy would like to produce and export more of products with a value added. However, it is problematic because there is not enough means to stay competitive and reach our customers on the traditional markets that we used to reach in 2021. This is very in a nutshell. I'm sharing with you the QR code direct link for the Outlook, which you can check, which you can download. It's open for everyone. So please take this opportunity to see more, because what I showed to you was just one small share of the information regarding the foreign trade. However, what is important is that the outlook covers also the balances, the levels of production and consumption in Ukraine. And to be honest, under every and each of crops, you would see that the situation compared to 2021 changed significantly.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. So we see, in fact, from the figures that European market remains, let's say, the backbone of Ukrainian agricultural export revenues. But the situation is very far from easy there. And I would like to turn back again to Andriy Dukun and to ask his take, his opinion. What do you see as the main, let's say, impediments for Ukrainian farmers operating on the EU market in terms of exports? And we also know that the current EU-Ukraine trade regime faces a lot of constraints. It faces a lot of constraints in terms of mostly tariff rate quotas that limit the ability of Ukrainian farmers to earn much needed export revenues. And moreover, it also faces a very, let's say, strict conditionality related to quick adaptation of EU standards. Again, we are perhaps turning to the oldest vision of Ukrainian farmers, let's say, very grim view of Ukrainian farmers being squeezed between standards and, let's say, realities on the ground. How do you see a way out in the short to medium term perspective from the point of view of Ukrainian farmer, Ukrainian export-oriented agriculture enterprise? Over to you, Andriy.
Thank you, Nazar. I would like to say thank you very much, Sasha, for your extremely interesting analysis. And before answering your question, I would like to add some specific information for that report. It concerns about wheat. Why I'm talking about wheat now? Because wheat is the only product which is on the export markets 100% for consumption. When we talk about corn, which is also a popular crop in Ukraine, export of the corn, 70% of this export goes for animals, for feed. So wheat is very strategical product. And before the full-scale invasion, Russians were stockpiling wheat stocks. And in 2022-23, it was the highest ever export of wheat by Russians, over 48 million tons. It was world record for Russian export of wheat. And we need to take this into account that wheat is already weaponized by Russians. And together, Ukraine and EU, like main producer of wheat in EU is France, of course, together we would be #1 wheat exporter in the world. And it is very important because when you remember when the Black Sea ports were blocked, Russian grain, which was stockpiled partly was stolen from Ukraine, was delivered to our markets. And today we have extremely unique situation, for example, in Egypt, who is buying around 1 million ton of wheat per month. They buy wheat from Russia, partly stolen from Ukraine or grown on Ukrainian territory, temporarily occupied. And this wheat is storaging in silos in Egypt, which were built by Europeans. So quite just want to show that it's more when we talk about food, it's more little bit that food. It's about security as well. So this is very important for all of us to understand. And here we need to find a common position with EU, because if we can we follow EU regulation? Of course, we can follow EU regulation. Not like this, but in 3 years we will follow it. Let's assume what happened in future. You see that Ukrainian farmers are very resilient. We can live under drones, under fighting, and so on. If someone will tell us to go immediately into EU regulation, we will go. But still, yes, our production cost will increase, our volume will decrease. What will happen in future with all these products? Where shall we go with them? To third markets? No, we are not competitive there. We will go to EU. Anyway, we will come to EU, and that will create more problems for them. So we need, one more time, I would like to stress, we need to calculate carefully both from EU side, from our side, to understand what are priorities for us, to put under regulation Ukrainian farmers or to have control of food supply to certain markets which are critical for security of EU and Ukraine. So we are not afraid of regulation. This is not good for us, of course, and we don't understand how much should we invest to change for this new technology. In EU, for example, they all get subsidies. Are they ready to pay us also subsidies? If they want us to follow EU regulation, okay, but are they ready to pay subsidies at the same level? For us, I don't think so, because even now in EU they have this discussion about size of the farm or maximum size of the subsidy they can pay. So there is a lot of discussion about new common agricultural policy, and I can say that Ukraine, I think, will play a very good role for Europeans, because using us, they could also reduce pressure on their farmers as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Alexandra, I would like to add something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to also continue Andri's thought on the question of, okay, we will calculate the expenditures the Ukrainian agricultural sector would require in order to become more European. But the question is right now, for example, what we know from the previous enlargements is that the farmers of Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, and other countries were receiving support from the European Union. And it was called the structural funds, called IPAR, CHAPAR, depends on the country that was entering the EU. So the question is, okay, from one side, as you've seen, the Ukrainian agricultural sector faces enormous challenges. To be honest, sincerely hope no other country in Europe would ever face the same challenges that Ukraine is facing right now. But these are the survival challenges, but we also need to keep them together with the adaptation challenges, which would cost us even more than the survival, basically. So the open question right now, whether, okay, Ukraine is modernizing, the agricultural sector is modernizing at the same time as trying to survive. Previous enlargements were financially supported by the European Commission and modernization. Right now, as already been mentioned by Ms. Larissa and by Mr. Bashlik, that Ukraine is already building the infrastructure for paying agency, for Ajax, for all those tools that are required for, let's say, adaptation and preparation of Ukrainian agricultural sector to be part of the EU. So the open question right now is whether Ukrainian agriculture will be also allowed to have an access to structural funds of the European Union, because right now it's quite important time with the MFF discussions and the future budget allocations. So for us, in order to be as prepared as fast as possible, we would require definitely support. And with this, maybe I would want to ask Denise and Larissa to follow up on whether we are institutionally capable in working with the structural funds, and maybe how we will be able to support the smaller Ukrainian agricultural producers, or those producers that are at the front lines, who actually required this support the most.
Thank you, Alexander. Before I pass the floor to Larissa, I have a very quick question to bring her back into the debate. A few words to our audience, dear viewers. We will have a Q&A session in the end of our debate very soon, in approximately 15 minutes. So I do invite you to post your questions on the chat box of our webinar today, and our guests, our panelists, will be able to take their turns in answering them. And while you will be typing your questions, I'm turning back to Larissa. Obviously, the debates within the EU about the reform of the common agriculture policy are very much influenced by the prospects of Ukraine's joining the EU, for obvious reasons we have described them there. You are an active participant in the inter-parliamentary dialogue with members of the European Parliament. Do you have a message? My two questions to you are, do you talk with your fellow parliamentarians in the EU Parliament regarding how the reform of EU agricultural policy should be adapted really first to support Ukrainian agriculture sector? And do you have any particular messages to the members of the European Parliament in this respect? Over to you, Larissa.
Thank you, Nazar, for your question, and thank you to Alexandra Kovalchuk. We are working with her hard on creating these messages and making it more, understandable for European partners, and we are always on the contact. Whether we have, I have meetings in European Parliament as a member of permanent commission, European Ukrainian on agreement on free trade. I think from the Parliament, European Parliament, we do find the understanding. And sometimes what we state there and talking to our best friends, of course, today it's Pekka Toveri from Finland, for example, that is heading the European part on this committee, Finnish parliamentarian general. And actually, then they use these messages. And for example, the very bright one, I would say that I would explain them that Polish farmers had the same problems with German farmers that were not perceived well by German farmers, and they were blocking, also physically the borders, but it turned to be that they are now living well and experience the same benefits and challenges within the common agricultural policy and within the market of EU. And I would say we would have the same. We have these problems with Polish farmers, but it will turn to be, if we become a member, that we will benefit from this. So, and they would repeat these messages. And to come back to the question is common agriculture policy. Our message to the EU partners, parliamentarians from national parliaments and from EU Parliament, especially to our colleagues in Parliament, European Parliament, is clear that Ukraine should not seen as a challenge to the common agriculture policy, but as a strategic asset for the European Union. And now there is discussion about the reform of CEP, about sustainability, climate adoption, strategic autonomy, and food security, and supply chains. And Ukraine fits naturally into this vision. Our agriculture demonstrated extraordinary resilience, and they have to teach from us, to study from us. We are not only the major producer, we are guarantor of world food security. And together, I support what Mr. Dekun said. Together with EU, we could provide this global food security. And now I think there is talks about, or it is already, I think, not fully decided, but there is a talk to the European Commission that we expect that the EU will assist to restore our presence in traditional markets, in MENA markets, if they are so afraid of us. Because if you see, if you talk about the agreement on Mercosur, what they did, they signed it. Of course, I have been in Strasbourg at this time, and there were working with thousands of tractors of farmers and pushing the European Parliament to put this issue on the European Court to understand whether it was legal or not, because Ursula von der Leyen signed it. And so they are ready to trade with Mercosur, but they're not ready to trade with Ukraine, not always ready, yes. And actually, these autonomous trade measures, I mean, it showed that it was not a collapse. We supported the prices not to go up, and it was a mutual benefits. We would import the highly value-added products, plant protection products, machinery, and they would use our grains, how you say, animal grains for the industry. So I think we can be mutually helpful to each other, and if is there such an understanding in European Parliament? Yes. In European Commission, yes, but they are also dependent on the on their voters, politicians, and they are seeing these demonstrations and so on and so forth. But I think we have to stress that together we can make it a soft power that could overtake these markets that Russia took, as Mr. Dekun said, in MENA countries, in African countries. They just came and substituted us because we were at the beginning of the war, and of course we pushed back without even our fleet. We didn't have fleet, but with our Sea Baby and Mahura, these sea drones, we pushed back and Russians and started to export, but not at that scale. Especially now, Odessa's been bombed this year 100 times. It's unprecedented. 2025, unprecedented bombing. And of course, it influenced the exports. It influenced maritime routes and blocks our trade chains. So we have a lot of challenges, but we are trying to explain that together we can make the soft power. And because I need to run to the vote and I missed already a lot. So to answer the question of Alexandra about the programs, actually we are institutionally not strong enough because we eliminated at the 2021 the Minister of Agriculture was deleted, and then we came back to the Minister of Agriculture. Then now it is in Ministry of Economy, the strongest sector, the biggest exporter of agricultural products, and we don't have the ministry. And these institutional changes and challenges that made that we didn't participate in the main programs when Moldova did. For example, LEADER program, we must be honest, we missed participation in 2023 and 2027. Unlike Moldova, they made it. So LEADER is a part of the wider common agriculture policy. It's about rural development, but we missed it. It's designed to empower NGOs, farmers, small rural businesses, and we missed it. And simultaneously, what is our president is saying now? He is saying that actually the role of the village is growing, that we have to support villages, rural development, and this can be made only by private business, because he doesn't believe in state business, the state companies, they're not effective enough. And this is true actually today. Government and this last year's government and the state subsidies were not aimed at rural area. They were mainly aimed at big cities, educational subsidies or other in the medicine and so on and so forth. And only business, only farmers, only local farmers and producers, big producers, anticipated in the work in the life of these Ramadas. So I think the government has to scale up together with EU programs and make it possible to raise the importance of the rural area, rural development and agricultural sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larissa. We understand that you have very important duties to attend as a member of parliament. We thank you for your participation. If you can stay with us a little bit longer, that would be great. But otherwise, thank you very much. I have a very quick question to Deputy Minister Bashlik. We recall that the European Commission, when they were negotiating the update of a trade arrangement between EU and Ukraine under the DCFTA, under the association agreement applicable to agricultural trade, the Commission did acknowledge that reintroducing quotas would significantly hit Ukrainian exporters, Ukrainian farmers, and they offered as a political, let's say, commitment to support Ukraine going back to traditional global markets. They call it very euphemistically, in a very typical European jargon, European flanking support measures. What's your take on this promise by the Commission? Do you think it's realistic? And what would be in the view of the ministry, what should be the best way the Commission could support Ukrainian exporters going back to the traditional markets in the world? What is your ideal view how it should progress?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, I'm a little bit sorry I missed some part of it because of internet connection, but anyway, I do understand. So if you speak about the proposals of European Commission, how to mitigate the risks from the providing the tariff rate quotas. It's very philosophical question. What is the liked and ATM was very favorable conditions, but we do understand that in the mid-term planning and long-term planning we should adapt, and we should understand that ATM was very temporary. But anyway, if we speak about support of agricultural sector of Ukraine within such conditions, we should take into account two main things. First of all, it's subsidies. We have provided together with our European colleagues for the last 3 years, and this will be the fourth year of providing subsidies using the European funds on hectare, and it was all distributed through state agrarian registry at the same how it works in Europe. And the other hand is that this year we already should shift a little bit more to European model of providing subsidies. We will introduce matching grants, which should be something new to Ukraine. But anyway, if we want to go to Europe, if we want to enter European Union, we already should be ready for receiving such a grants. And frankly speaking, in some cases, the procedure is very complicated, but taking into account the Ukrainian approach to digitalization and that we already have such instrument as state agrarian registry, we are ready to progress into European country where we tried to take their experience and use it in Ukraine, we did understand that we already can simplify the process because our digitalization progress is much higher than in many European countries, and we don't want to ask for some document or some paper from farmer because the state already has it. But it's about processing. If taking looking globally on what you said, we as a government right now working on diversification of the export markets. And one of the probably one of the most perspective, especially in case if Ukraine enters the EU and all the our export potential becomes a European export potential, we see that the global south is one of the most prospective markets. And here we already started the project of building the first agri-hub in Africa. It will be in Ghana, and we will open it probably in the end of March. It will be like the first step pilot project how to achieve, how to reach the African markets. We do understand that it's very big. It's very, in some cases, politically complicated, especially in the framework of geopolitics. But if we will not start doing this, we do understand that Russia will conquer it totally. And here we already have preliminary discussions with our European colleagues that we should together work out the model how to reach the African countries, because let's be frank, and Europe also interested in Ukraine's presence on African markets, on global south markets, because it will decrease the pressure on European countries, and it's totally logical. So here we have win-win situation where we can use flanking measures, where we can use structural funds that already Alexandra mentioned, in order to support our farmers on one hand and diversify our export on the other hand, in order to create the most favorable conditions for both sides. And last but not the least, my colleague Larissa mentioned some institutional changes which happened in Ukraine. Here I want to make two comments. First of all, if we speak about readiness of the government to receive the European support and distribute it in very transparent way, I want to mention that we already ready. Because for the last 3 years we are doing it, we had some mistakes which we are already overcoming. And if we speak about the institutional capacity, frankly speaking, the transformation of the Ministry of the Agriculture and Economy into one ministry has facilitated the European integration process, because sometimes our bureaucratical procedures and competitiveness between the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture took a lot of time. Right now, when we under one roof, frankly speaking, it takes 1 week, as before it took 1 month. So here I would stress that it facilitates the European integration process. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. In fact, we are very much delighted to hear that in this very many experiments with optimizing, streamlining Ukrainian chain of government, this one seems to be most successful than the other one. So we as the agriculture sector can only cheer you. Very quick, thank you very much, Minister, for your time. And now to Alexandra. I know, Alexandra, that UCAB was one of the first, if not the first, Ukrainian Agriculture Association that came up with a very clear position on how this support measures, flanking measures, should look like. Can you share with us the key elements of proposals by UCAB vis-a-vis the measures that the Commission should take? Thank you.
Nazar, thank you for the questions. First of all, I would like to highlight the fact that I think is for the first time in our experience, we have the member of parliament being with us basically from the whole of the parliament. So,
it's historic. I didn't want to say
Ms.
anything,
Larissa,
but it's
highly
historic. Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Now, I mean, it's 4 times and no voices now, not enough to vote any draft. So sorry to say.
Well, we hope that the internal transformations in the parliament would be faster because, again, as Denise mentioned, and as a position of vice prime minister, we need to work as if we are becoming an EU member state since January 1, 2027. Regarding the flanking measures and in general the possibility of export, we all understand that for European Union and for Ukraine itself, as Andriy mentioned before, it is important that we export to the third markets, our so-called traditional markets, which are the countries of global south. And as I told during the presentation, right now it's a bit challenging because unfortunately our export routes are not working as before in 2021. So the logical support in this from the perspective of Ukrainian business definitely would be to make the conditions of export as close as possible as it was in 2021 with the lower insurance costs, with the higher amount of ships and containers entering the Black Sea ports, with basically the capability of producers to export the way it was before the full-scale invasion. It is challenging to do so, however, with the help of the European Union, with the help of the European stakeholders who are involved in basically different stages of this export via Black Sea roads. With their help, this is quite possible. Why? Because, for example, we have Maersk or CMS, those are shipping companies that provide containers, that provide the ships that are entering to Ukrainian seaports. With the support of the European Commission, we could guarantee higher, for example, funds, the reserved money in case something happens. As Ms. Belazir already mentioned, Odessa is undergoing quite constant shelling, and we need to have both supplier of the ships and the cargo to be protected, as well as the products to be protected. So creating additional funds, creating the more secured cooperation between Ukrainian exporters, European traders that are very much involved in the export activities of Ukrainian producers, and with the help of the European export credit agencies, we, from the perspective again of the business, we think that this would create an extra opportunity for the Ukrainian producers to reach the third markets or the markets of the countries of the global south. At the same time, the suggestions, or the already existing proposals that are have been prepared between Ukrainian government and the European Commission on the agro hubs would definitely secure those people that are mostly affected with the difficulties, and for those that the most fragile parts of the countries that are in the countries of the global south, in which Ukrainian producers would definitely support, because again, Ukrainian agricultural sector feeds more than 400 million people all over the world, and we would love to continue do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. So, dear viewers, we have come to the end of our debate. We cannot continue further, however, how much we would love to do that. Now it's time for questions. So, as you fill in your questions into the chat box of our webinar, I have a few pre-recorded questions that we received from the viewers as they were registering. And I start with the first question, and I'm very much encouraged to see that a lot of questions we have received, they already look into the future. They look into the how to make Ukrainian agriculture sector more competitive and foraying into new areas. For instance, like bioenergy. There is one question, and I would address it to all our panelists, whoever wants to take it. Given the current agricultural losses, I'm reading the question now. Given the current agricultural losses, damage to logistics infrastructure, how do you assess the potential of converting agricultural residues and wood waste into bioenergy? And to what extent this these products of Ukrainian agriculture sector could have demand in Europe and beyond. Who wants to take this question? Andriy, maybe.
Probably
Mr.
I will
Bashlik?
take, I will make a
Great.
short comment. Actually, when we speak about tariff rate quotas, about the diversification of our export routes and so on and so far, we sometimes forgetting about the possibilities of diversification of our export products. And if we speak about biofuel, if we speak about bioenergy product, it's for my opinion, it's one of the most perspective right now, especially one of the most perspective products right now, especially in the framework of all the discussions on possibility of agriculture export. Europe is interested in Ukrainian biofuel, and we do see that the IRR for any bioenergy project on biogas products, it's sometimes from 2 to 7 years, and it's frankly speaking helped me to find the same IRR for other agricultural products, especially even deep processing, even processing products. And on the one hand, you have problems with quotas, you have problems with export markets, where you have other problems. On the other hand, you have the same capex inputs, you have the same possibilities, you have the same raw materials, but you don't have problems with export and the export market. So I think that it is very perspective, because in case of agriculture, we have sometimes to persuade our European colleagues that it's win-win situation. In case of bioenergy, it's obvious that it's win-win, and everyone understands that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandra, please join.
I would want to follow the message of Ms. Larissa before, and what Denis just mentioned is that Ukrainian agricultural sector could be a solution in many ways for the European Union. Therefore, we are very much looking forward for the development of the European bioeconomy strategy, because basically with the level of raw materials that Ukraine is producing, we would definitely support the strategic autonomy of the European Union with the green gas. We would diversify the supplies. We would be the great investor basically in the Green Deal and the green transition of Europe itself, because this is something where Ukrainian agri-food producers are already working, because as Denis mentioned, we have many projects on biogas production, on bioethanol production. This is something that would definitely be very much helpful for the European Union in the nearest future to become more green, but also would, decrease the tension in terms of very big agricultural producer, which Ukraine is, and transform it to the position of actually helper and supporter of the European Union in getting to or achieving those green aims that European Union has.
Thank you. Another question that we have received from our viewers was, do you see any opportunities? So let's say, yes, opportunities for strategic collaboration from international agricultural companies present in Ukraine as strategic partners, whether there is any expectations of their contribution into the post-war recovery and transformation of the agriculture sector. So basically we are talking about international investors in Ukrainian agriculture sector. When the war is over, what do you see, what should be their role? That's the question to all the panelists. Who would like to take the floor?
Well, if you don't mind.
Please, Andriy.
Thank you very much for the question. And I talked already that, for example, our dairy sector, which is quite crucial for our economy, agricultural is in a very difficult situation. And the bottleneck of this is because our processing industry is very weak. So definitely we are interested in value-added processing in Ukraine. And for that, we need industrial partners. For example, we can produce a lot of meat, which is not possible to do anymore in EU, because we are in EU, they are closing farms. In Ukraine, we can continue building farms, increasing added value in that, but also we need a strong processing. We need strong processing industry in meat processing. Because today, even so it's war, we are exporting live animals for beef. We're exporting live bulls, and it's too dangerous, and it's not very logical to export live weight, because actually you export water instead of exporting slaughtered beef. So this is where we need expertise from Europe. This is processing, and with processing we need the knowledge, technology, and access to capital. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wants to add to that?
I would like to add
Alexandra.
the fact that right now there is already some part of cooperation between IFIs, which is international financial institutions that are active in Ukraine. But what we are very much looking forward is that IFIs together with the Ukrainian banks would work even more with the different sectors or different producers, depends on their size and depends on the activities they have. Because right now it's a bit difficult situation in which Ukrainian economy has a very high interest rates. There is not enough liquidity for the producers, and financing from the IFIs or from the bank system would definitely support, first of all, the stabilization of the agri-food producers, and maybe also the attraction of the new technologies, the new know-hows, and further development of added value products in Ukraine, including those that are in the bioeconomy segment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have exhausted almost all other questions, because as far as I see from the list of questions we have received, many of them have been already answered in the course of our discussion today. So unless our dear viewers have any more questions that they can post on the chat window, and I see there are none for the moment, I would like to say a big thank you to our panelists for their time, for their dedication, for their effort. And I would like to conclude by saying that despite this very grim occasion of our online webinar today, I see that both from the tenor, from the contents of our discussions, that we are very much upbeat. The sector and the government are very much upbeat. They're looking forward to the future with hope, with encouragement, with quiet confidence. And I think this is really encapsulates the essence of Ukrainian sector, of the Ukrainian maybe DNA. It's resilience and optimism. So perhaps on that note, I would like to once again to thank everyone present here. It's incredible to see your smiling faces, even as we know that Kyiv is looking forward to the end of this horrible winter. And we look forward to our next events, and we invite everyone to follow us on social media. And by the way, the recording of this webinar will be available on UCAB YouTube channel later. Once again, thank you very much, colleagues, and see you next time.
Thank you.